Welcome, property investors. This is the Building in Perth podcast. If you're a property investor or you're curious about investing in property in Western Australia, this is the podcast for you. The reason for that is we're not going to hold back. We're not going to sugarcoat things. We're certainly not going to bullshit you, and we're going to exploit everything that you need to know. There's a lot of negative press at the moment in WA regarding building, and it doesn't have to be. So what we're going to do is help you navigate through that bullshit and create your wealth free of charge. We're just giving you this information. Every month we're going to have special guests on who are industry professionals, and then we're going to release an episode every single Monday. So you're not going to miss anything. So please stay tuned, like, subscribe so you never miss anything, and enjoy. Hello, and welcome to the Building in Perth podcast with your host, Chris Holland. Now, in today's podcast, it's the start of season 2. I'm very excited to be back. There has been a few changes, as you can see. It's just myself. The plan for this podcast is to reach more people. We found it hard before, myself and Tony, to get people in to come to our office in Beaver Lake. You know, we got to spend an hour or two. We got to chat to them, find out what they want to talk about, create some content for the podcast, and then finally actually interview them. With a busy office that we had set up, it was quite difficult. So we've chosen the option now to go virtual, okay? Now, this is going to make it a lot easier for us to reach more people, all sorts of people in the industry. It's still going to be talking about building in Perth, obviously, and anything building related. So to begin, I just want to put it out there. Anybody who wants to get on this podcast is more than welcome. All you have to do is send me an email, info@ccwest.com.au. Put the subject as podcast, and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. We want to try and release one every single week, just like we were doing last time. And again, this will probably go for 15 episodes, and then we'll have a little break, and then we'll restart the podcast. However, we have had so much inquiry recently, and people asking, when is the podcast coming back? So the good news is we're back. Happy days. Now, today's topic is going to be where to start if I'm looking to build. All right, so I'm going to recap everything we spoke about in episodes 1 to 15 in season 1. And we're just going to say, if you're thinking about building, what the hell do I do? Where do I start? How do I start? Who do I speak to? What direction do I take? Okay, so this is right back to basics. And hopefully this helps. So basically, step number 1, if you're looking to build in Perth, the first thing that you should consider is your finance. Okay. A lot of these building companies put out house and land packages, and people normally just start going to display homes straight away, right? So whether it's a first-time buyer, whether you're an investor, whether you're looking to downsize, maybe looking to upsize, the first thing we must consider is your finance. What is your borrowing power? More importantly than your borrowing power, what actually are you going to be comfortable paying? Okay. If you're an investor, we got to make sure that what your mortgage repayments are going to be in this area, you're going to get more rent for that. Simple as that. So finance is the first thing we have to sort. Now, I'm a builder, right? I'm not a finance broker. I know 70% of finance issues. I can help you, but what I generally do, honestly, is full transparency. I put you out to one of my mortgage brokers, get a couple of them, see who you're going to gel with. A mortgage broker is really important when it comes to building a home. They've got to be in communication. Generally, they will do all the financial work for you, all the paperwork, all the legwork. They'll communicate with the builder. They'll communicate with the banks. They'll communicate with the valuers. You can do all this yourself, bearing in mind. You can go direct to the bank. However, a mortgage broker is a free asset to you in this journey. They get paid directly from the bank. They get a small commission up front when you sign your contract. And then secondly, they get what's called a trail, right? So a trail is they get a monthly revenue from the bank the longer you're with that bank. So you don't actually lose any money. The interest rates are still the same. A lot of people do go into the bank and negotiate themselves, or they banked with this bank for 15 years and I've got a good relationship with the manager. That's great. However, when it comes to money, I don't think loyalty is a thing. I think you should explore all banks, and that's what mortgage brokers do. So I work closely with 3 mortgage brokers. Real good guys. They're all guys, not females, unfortunately. But yeah, all real good guys, quality, really good communication. And that's something that you need to look for when it comes to mortgage broker. Okay. So number 1, get in contact. We'll fill out a form, a financial fact sheet form, or I'll put you in contact with the mortgage broker and he'll send you the form. He'll collect 2 pay slips. He'll have a look at your bank statements. He'll make sure you're not, constantly on Tier B and Bet365 and stuff like that. Just an overall general health check. They'll do a credit check. It's free of charge. It doesn't come up on your credit score or anything like that. And then we'll just start to have a bit of an idea of what you can actually borrow. So first things first, let's not look at display homes. Let's see how much you can borrow, okay? Interest rates are finally stabilizing now, which is great. It has been an insane last 18 months. It feels like we've just never had a break. However, from my knowledge in the industry, interest rates are stabilizing and even going to come down slightly. Bearing in mind, we're not in control of that, and that's something to consider. That's very important. So when you're looking at building your own home, I wouldn't suggest looking at today's interest rate, today's borrowing power. Let's always take it a little bit worst case scenario. Add an extra 0.5% or even a full percent on. Let's look at those repayment figures and let's make sure that that's achievable for you, because so many people in the last 2 years signed up at 2.9%, 3.1% interest rates, and now they're really struggling. There's $400, $500, $600 extra a month coming out of the bank account for the mortgage that they never took into consideration. So it really is the most important thing, in my opinion, is making sure your finance is okay and you're going to be comfortable. There's no point building this house and living in it if it's an owner occupier and not being able to afford it, basically. So, yeah, interest rates are finally stabilizing, which is good. So once we've got your repayment figures for a rough package that we're going to be working on, we know your borrowing power. The next thing we do is look for a block of land. Now, this is a bit of a pain. It's a bit of a dark spot in the industry. It's a lot of bullshit. You hear things like from the land agents, oh, quick, I've got 2 other people interested. You got to hurry up, make me an offer, all this sort of crap. The best thing you can do is get in touch with a builder or a builder broker and let them do it for you, to be honest. These guys have years and years and years of relationships with these land developers and the sales consultants. Generally, how it works, the more business you give them, the better you're going to get looked after as the client of that person. So, for instance, if you see a block of land and you come to me and go, Chris, I want this block in Wanneroo, the land agent's so-and-so, but he told me that I've got to make an offer by Sunday. Allow me to jump on the phone. Let me speak to him. Let me negotiate with him. Let me tell him a bit about you. Let me paint a picture. This is what we're going to do, right? These guys just want to get paid as well. They want the quickest sale, so they get their commissions, which is understandable. But generally, just with a bit of communication, you can negotiate and you can get a bit more time, okay? So first things first, in order to secure a block of land, you'll need an LOE, which is called the Letter of Eligibility. Now, what that does, it's a letter from the mortgage broker, who we've already dealt with in step 1. It's a letter from the mortgage broker to say that I've checked over your finances and you are finance ready. And or you will be ready in 2 months. We have to save a little bit more or whatever. But basically, that letter of eligibility makes us a better client, I guess, for that land agent selling the block of land. On top of that, if I'm negotiating as part of the builder, I've got speedy build times, this, that. They want their estate to go quickly, right? They want it to go pretty quickly. Don't sign up with BGC or ABN Group and it takes 9 years to build the house. They don't want that. That's going to look bad when it comes to selling new blocks of land that stages 1, 2, and 3 are still not finished, but they're trying to sell stages 4, 5, and 6, for instance. So when it comes to land search, make sure you're dealing with a builder broker and or someone who has relationships with land developers. Next thing we have to be conscious of, a lot of my builds are actually in established areas. So we have to look at the R codes. Now, every block of land in Australia has an R code associated with it. I'm not going to bore you to tears with it, but basically the R code is like a rule book, what you can do on that land. If you've got a 400 square meter block of land, you can't build a 400 square meter house. Okay, there's rules and setbacks, and they'll only allow you, let you build 55% of the area, that type of stuff. Okay, so you don't need to worry too much, but it is a question to keep in your head for when you're dealing with your consultant or builder. Okay, make sure they're all over the R codes so you're not getting carried away with the house design side of things and you can't build that on the house. It can be quite disheartening if you've went through this whole process, you've designed this big, beautiful house, and the sales consultant who's got no, he's an ex-police officer or something, he's got no actually idea about building. They design you this house, you sell you the dream. You can even go as far as signing up a contract. But when it comes to obtaining a building permit, the council will reject it, unfortunately. So it's quite disheartening. So our codes, just keep it in the back of your mind. However, the person that you're working with, as long as they're a working professional and they've got some sort of experience in the industry, a trade background or drafting or estimation or anything construction based, you wouldn't be buying a car from a car salesman with no mechanical history, really, would you? I mean, yeah, you know what I'm saying. So just keep our codes in the back of your head, but as long as you're dealing with a working professional, you should be fine. Now, when it's looking at blocks of land, there's things called rebates, right? There's two price lists, basically. There's a price list that goes to you, the customer, and there's a price list that goes to all the builders and sales agents. It's two different prices. Normally, there's a rebate attached to it. Now, a rebate can be between 1,000, 10,000. I've seen them go as high as 28,000, but basically that's like a kickback to the sales consultant for the building company if they sell that block of land. So not always will the person you're dealing with have your best interest at heart. Normally, unfortunately, it's like a hidden rule again, I guess. Normally, they're going to put you somewhere where they're going to get more of a kickback. It's a bit shit. If you ask the land agent directly and you're doing this yourself without help, ask them about rebates and they have to disclose it to you, okay? But you can save yourself $5,000, $10,000 off your block of land just by asking that question, are there any rebates on this block? They don't advertise it to the public, like I said. They only advertise it to sales consultants. Bit of a shit thing in the system, but it's a good one to keep up your sleeve when it comes to negotiating. After we've secured the block of land, we're going to design a house. Now, this is the biggest bugbearer for me, for clients that I see come to me after the fact when they've dealt with another builder. The builder would only let us choose stock base models, or he's gave us these plans and said we can't make any changes or a few small changes. Like, it really annoys me. Like, you're building a house. Why are you going to build a house that someone else has built? Someone has bought that house already. Design it, customize it, print it off, sit down, get a red pen, get a ruler and design it yourself. The house should be user-friendly for you. If you're going to live in this house, we want it to suit you and your family's needs. If you don't want a study, don't have a study. If you want a theatre, have a theatre, etc., etc. If you want a standalone bath, have a standalone bath. If you don't want his and hers, take out his and hers. It's really important. One of the funnest parts about building a house is designing it yourself. Got a good mate of mine, Alec, who one of the first houses I built some years ago, we actually went to a pub and he drew it on a napkin and we turned that into a house. Don't get me wrong, there was a few design changes, but essentially he designed his own house in a pub, having a beer on a bit of paper. And that's what he wanted. He's from England. He wanted to walk straight into the kitchen. That style house, you know what I mean? Not come into a hallway and stuff like that. And he loves it. He designed that himself. That's pretty special. And it's the main difference about building or buying. When you go and look at established houses, you're never going to walk into an established house and go, oh my God, this is perfect. There's nothing I need to change in this house. You will always say, oh, I just wish that was here, or I don't like how that's done, but I love the rest. So when it's building a house, why don't we just nail it first time? There should be no pressure on this. There should be no, hurry up, prices are going up next month, all that bollocks. Like, this is a really critical part of the process and it shouldn't be rushed. So yeah, designing a house, have some input. Don't just take a couple of plans that the builder's going to take you and choose one. Don't do it. The reason builders do that is they've got all the prices and the estimates and the quantities worked out on these houses. That's why they've got a price next to it. They've been pre-engineered. The builder spent a lot of money getting this house design ready. Well, that's tough shit for the builder, to be honest. This is your house. Take the time and build it correctly. Design it correctly and then get it built correctly. Or, secondly, hire your own architect. If you've got a bit more money in the bank, go to an independent designer, go to an architect and get it designed yourself. Then you have copyright of that floor plan, okay? Then what you do is actually go and tender it out to builders. I mean, essentially, that's what builder brokers do, which I think are brilliant in the industry. I started a building broking company 4 years ago, one of the first in WA, and now there's about 4 million of them. Everyone's just chucking their hand up and doing it. Doesn't matter if you get any qualifications, they're going to just go and be a builder broker. Again, be careful with that. Make sure it's someone with some sort of trade experience or building anything, Don't just go with anyone who's pops up a website, jumps on a podcast and starts talking about building. Make sure they've got some sort of level of experience. You're trusting them to build your house. You're trusting them to negotiate for you. make sure they've got some sort of experience, because there's just so many people doing it right now. It's ridiculous. So an architect can cost you anywhere between $1,500. If you go online, you can get like an architect from another country, perhaps, which I don't recommend, but you can. But it can cost up to $10,000 for a decent floor plan. Now, you only need a floor plan. You only need the design. Once you got the design and you get it to a builder, that's enough for them to quote. And then the builder will take over and they'll redraw it. They're going to have to reproduce working drawings and elevations and stuff like this, okay? So a lot of people are doing it now and hiring their own architects. You just got to make sure you click with one and they really get your values. So they should sit down with you and go, what do you want? You know, what's important to your family? Do you like cooking? Do you like entertaining? Are you out in the back garden a lot? Do you have barbecues? Are you in your bedroom a lot? You know, do you need a retreat, a parents retreat? Kids, how many kids you got? Do they need an activity room? Blah, blah, blah. A lot of things when it comes to building a house. But yeah, a big tip, don't just pick a base plan, you know what I mean? There's always going to be something you want to change, so change it basically. And as long as you've got the R codes in the back of your head, then you can be guided that your changes are going to be allowed, okay? After that, choose the right builder. Simple as that. The markets came down a little bit now, you know. The last 2 years has been crazy with your big companies taking 2-3 years to build houses. The big builders are still obviously behind. They've still got thousands of homes, pre-construction, signed up in contracts that they've got to get through. Good news is the market rates for the trades are stabilizing again. They're coming back down to a more legitimate level. I mean, bricklayers were making more than doctors last year. You know what I mean? Which I don't completely disagree with. Laying bricks is a hard job, but it's getting a bit more competitive between builders again. So they're actually beginning to discount and offer extra deals and throw free stuff away and whatever to secure your business. But in saying this, you must choose a builder that's going to give you a guarantee. You don't want to be one of those statistics, you know, 18 months to build a single-story home. I don't know if you're on Shonky Builders or the Building in Perth Facebook page, but people get to roof carpentry stage and the timber sits there for 4 months and it gets all twisted and warped and discolored and rotting and stuff like this. So make sure whatever builder you're going with gives you a guarantee in your contract. Now that's very important. Okay. With the builder as well, smaller builders are probably preferable. They're going to be a little bit more expensive naturally because they don't have the buying power, but you're going to get a better build. You're going to get closer service. You're going to get weekly, fortnightly communication updates. All of these things is something to be wary of. 90% of the time, the big project builders, which are in the display homes, I don't know the percentage. If I was to have a stab in the dark, 30% have good experience, 70% have sort of negative experience. So the bigger builders aren't always best, but it really depends on you as the client. Okay, so just do your research. Go and have a chat with a few different builders. Get a feeling for them, you know. Ask to speak to the builder themselves. Ask to speak to the director. If you're just dealing with a sales consultant, I mean, not much of what they say has any weight behind it, to be honest. So go somewhere where you're going to be valued as a client and, you know, you're going to chat to them. Yes, 100%. The biggest pain in my ass, but I still think for you, the client, yes, get a building inspector. I don't suggest that you have to use them for all 5 stages of the build, but definitely use them for a few stages. And PCI should be a non-negotiable for me with all clients, including my own. PCI building inspector comes in, he checks over everything's finished correctly, he picks up all the paint defects, which there's normally lots of, you know. Builders are trying to get houses finished. They get the painters in maybe sometimes a little bit too soon. And then someone's got to come in, or Chippy's got to fix a door handle that's a bit squeaky or something. His hammer chips the wall, or, you know, it's building, stuff happens. But building inspectors, yes, same thing. Shop around, go and speak to a couple of different building inspectors, see who you get the best feeling from. Ask to see a copy of the report from another project so you know what you're looking at. Building inspectors range from $350 to $700 roughly, so $500 per inspection is a general tool. But yeah, I think they're brilliant. I think they're really good, especially if you're a first home buyer. It's worth the extra $500, $1,000, $1,500. Bit of peace of mind that you've got someone else having a look over your build, yeah? If you have a builder broker and you're going through this process, ask them to do your building inspections for you. It's a part of their service they should do. I mean, again, if they've got some sort of industry knowledge, then absolutely get them to do your PCI and save that money. Or PCI or any of the inspection or the claims as such. So yeah, look, I hope that helps. Just to summarize, if you're looking at this, or if you're a first home buyer, second, third, it doesn't really matter, but just a recap of episode 1, the steps in order to building your own home. Get your finance sorted first of all, get an idea, and allow a bit of inflation. Don't work on today's market rate, always allow just a little bit more. And then anything better than that's achievable for you. Secure a block of land, negotiate. Ask about rebates. 100%. It's the biggest hidden thing in land sales, and or deal with your builder broker, your sales consultant that has a good relationship. Make sure they've been in the industry a few years, they're not just came in the last 6 months and they don't know anybody. It's pretty important. Get a personal architect if you can afford it. If not, go with a company that's going to make you allow modifications. Try not to stick to just base plans. Get creative. It's your house at the end of the day, so build it exactly how you want. And choose a builder. Choose a builder that has guaranteed in your contract build timelines. If you've not been watching the news and you've been living under a rock for the last 2 years, that is the biggest bugbear for clients at the moment. Builders just taking too long. They're not doing it deliberate, guys. It's just the market at the moment. Builders use subcontractors. That's another down point of the building industry in WA. Most builders use subcontractors, so there's no loyalty. These tradies are just going to go and work for whoever gives them the most money or the jobs that are closest to their home. That's understandable. It's not the builder's fault. But choose a builder that's going to guarantee you or give you something back, show you a bit of confidence that why you should go with them, And then finally, get a building inspector. So I hope this podcast has helped. We're going to be coming out weekly as we did last season. So stay tuned. And again, as I said at the start, if anyone wants to come on the podcast and talk about your brand and what you do in the industry, feel free. Just send me an email to info@ccwest.com.au. And I hope you've enjoyed the podcast, guys. Cheers. I'll see you next week.